Getting stranded alone on an island might seem bad enough, but it gets much worse when you find out there's a million corpses on there with you. Although you might get lucky, you might end up on an island full of biologically altered rabbits, an island made of trash, or an island that smells entirely of eggs. And these are just some of the genuinely real places you're about to see in our list of the 7 weirdest islands in the world. Number 7. The Million Corpse Island. This is an island with a past, present, and future like no other. An island which once housed a Civil War prison camp, a mental institution, a young boys' workhouse, and that now plays host to the ghosts of a million dead. This is Hart Island, and it can be found in New York City. Hart Island is located just off the easternmost part of the Bronx, and since burials began shortly after the Civil War, a steady stream of dead folks have poured onto the island ever since. Hart's public graveyard is used mostly for the internment of unknown people without traceable relatives, or those who are too poor for regular burials. However, sometimes people sign away their loved ones' remains for city burial, not knowing what it means. But if they knew the grisly truth, they may have thought twice. Adults buried on Hart Island are often put in trenches with several dozen other corpses. And children are piled into trenches 1,000 at a time, with random limbs getting their own special section at Potter's Field. 1,500 people are laid to rest here every year, with 1/3 being infants and stillborn babies. And these standard non-ceremonial burials are conducted entirely by prisoners from nearby Rikers Island. Visitors are limited to only 70 per month, courtesy of the only 2 ferries which make the trip, with one reserved for relatives and the other for the public. But in the hopes of making access easier, many people have called for jurisdiction of the island to be transferred over to Parks and Recreation Department. Man, I'd love to see Leslie Knope trying to deal with that with a smile on her face. At 6. The Alien Island. If you were to wake up suddenly on the Yemeni island of Socotra, you might think you'd been transported to another planet, and you wouldn't be far off, because this place is frequently described as the most alien-looking land on Earth. Its reputation stems from the fact that here, there are more than 700 species of animal and plant life found nowhere else in the world. The dragon's blood tree, the desert rose, and Dorstina gigas are some of the weirdest things you'll see. But if you want to take a tourist trip, you better know how to live off the land. Socotra has 40,000 inhabitants but acquired its first roads only 10 years ago. And today it is facing a fight to retain its unique biodiversity in the face of encroaching technology. One final interesting fact about this place is that in 2014, it was considered as a possible location for rehabilitating Yemeni jihadists. Because apparently the best way of reforming extremists is to make them think they've been abducted by aliens? 5. The Dump. The next time you call your hometown a dump, you might want to check your privilege, bro. Because for the people of Thilafushi Island in the Maldives, that description is all too literal. I say people, but Thilafushi Island doesn't actually have any houses, but it is home to a burgeoning industrial complex where activities such as boat manufacturing, methane production, and cement packing take place. And the cool thing about owning a business here is that every time you throw out the trash, your floor space expands. That's because Thilafushi Island is artificial and was constructed out of a landfill which served the Maldivian capital of Mal. This is what people imagine when they think of the Maldives. But this is what the reality was. thanks to the huge amount of waste produced by its tourists. It seems that for a long time the Maldivian government had something of a laissez-faire attitude towards garbage disposal, with 330 tons of junk left to pile up in this region for years until anyone did anything. Eventually, the landfill was leveled off and topped with sand and construction debris. And since 1997, over 30 acres of this repurposed junkyard have been leased out to entrepreneurs. The island is growing at a rate of 1 square meter per day thanks to the continued dumping, but environmentalists have warned that since much of this waste is hazardous, the island of Thilafushi is a ticking toxic time bomb waiting to explode. In at 4, the Island of the Dolls. We've covered the Isla de las Muñecas before on this channel, but here's a recap for those of you who missed it. This island was once the home of Julian Santana Barrera, a reclusive artist who decorated the island with creepy dolls for a very macabre reason. 50 years ago, he found the body of a dead little girl in one of the island's canals, and shortly afterwards he found a doll floating in the same place. He hung the doll up for her as a tribute, and forever after he tried to appease her spirit by hanging more of these battered playthings from trees and bushes. Barrera's relatives now run the island as a tourist attraction after he died in 2001. And the spooky thing is that when his body was found, it was discovered in the very same canal which claimed the life of that poor little girl. At least that's what the brochures and gift shop want you to believe. 3. The Shape-Shifting Island. Sable Island is situated 300 kilometers southeast of Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada, and has been responsible for so many shipwrecks, it's been given the nickname the Atlantic Cemetery. 350 ships have met their doom here since 1583, and one of the main reasons for this is that the island moves and changes shape all the time. The frequent shifting of Sable Island sands means that the whole place can move as much as 100 meters in just 1 year. So even Google Maps can't help you out with this one. Thankfully, technology is now available to help seafarers track the island's current position. And if you're thinking this place sounds like somewhere the lost smoke monster might hang out, then don't worry. The only things that live here are 5 people, a bunch of seals, and 400 Sable Island ponies. Gah! At 2. Biological warfare bunnies. You've probably already heard of that Japanese island full of cats and the Brazilian island full of snakes. And if you haven't, well, that's just too bad, because we're more interested in this, the island of feral, chemically altered rabbits. Okunoshima is located in Japan's inland sea, and here you'll find thousands of feral rabbits whose ancestors were brought for chemical weapons testing. In 1925, the Japanese constructed a secret chemical munitions facility, and to gauge the effectiveness of mustard and tear gas mixtures, they shipped huge numbers of rabbits over to act as guinea pigs. Could have just used actual guinea pigs, but there you go. After the plant was closed, the rabbits were let loose, everything was covered up. And in ultimate poetic justice, unaware humans moved in and of course got sick. The Japanese government eventually provided compensation by giving everyone money, officially making the island a roam-free rabbit preserve, and they built a delightful poison gas museum. Now, that's an enchanting day out for the family. And in at number 1, Egg World. Miyakijima is the second Japanese island to make this list, and considering what goes on here, you'd hope this place would at least get a mention in Okunoshima's Poison Gas Museum. Every so often, the island becomes enshrouded in a thick haze of toxic sulfur dioxide. And who do they have to thank for such a wonderful gift? Why? It's Mr. Active Volcano, of course. How do you do? The 2,400 people of Miyagi-jima live in the constant shadow of Mount Oyama, which has erupted 13 times in the last 5 centuries, with 5 coming in the past 100 years. One deadly lava flow killed 11 people in 1940, and the last period of emissions lasted 4 years from 2000 to 2004, with a constant stream of sulfur dioxide pouring out from Mount Oyama ever since. Miyagi-jima was evacuated during this period, but residents were allowed to return in 2005, and those who have made the insane decision to do so are required to carry gas masks with them at all times. So why would you want to live in a place that smells constantly like rotting eggs in between the times it's trying to kill you? Well, money, of course. The inhabitants are paid a pretty penny to stay here, so that scientists can study the effects of constant sulfur inhalation over a human lifetime. They could have just studied me over the past 10 years. My dog's diet is not at all good. And a Strange Mysteries bonus entry: Camphor's Dam. Here's an island shaped like a giant S that's filled with flamingos. It's Camphor's Dam, found in South Africa. It was built as a flamingo sanctuary in 2006. It can hold up to 50,000 flamingos. It has a surface elevation of... can you tell I'm just reeling off boring facts so we can squeeze in more photos of flamingos? What can I say? I like me some flamingos. And that's our list. But if you'd like to hear about more interesting geographical oddities, then check out our recent video on 7 secret places hidden in famous locations. None of them have flamingos, but all of them are still pretty neat.